Oh man, you gotta hear this. I'm listening to a brand new podcast playlist that was curated by somebody famous. You'll never guess who. OJ Simpson. Yeah, it's oddly enough, it's a lot of murder podcasts. But you don't have to listen to just the O.J. Simpson one. They've got a Harvey Weinstein one. It's a dating. He loves dating podcasts. And let's see who else. Woody Harrelson. He loves nice family podcasts. I'm gonna name. I'll name two more people. Let's see. Scarlett Johansson. She loves podcasts about culture. So she loves Asian and Black podcasts. Oh, excuse me, Asian and trans podcasts. So LGBTQIA plus podcasts. She loves those. And who else? Who's another woman I can name? J.K. Rowling. She also loves LGBTQIA podcasts. Let me throw one more on there. Let me throw one there. And Oprah. She loves doctor podcasts. So yeah, these podcast playlists. Everybody's got one. All the greatest people in the world. Let's recap. O.J. Simpson. Woody. Did I say Woody Allen? I'm going to say Woody Allen. He loves. Did I say Harrelson or Allen before? I don't know. Woody Allen. Scarlett Johansson, Harvey Weinstein, and Oprah. They all have great podcast suggestions. I have one for you, the Constitutionals podcast. This is a real thing. Go listen to it.
It's news time. Delivering to you the news you didn't know about, the news you didn't care about, and the news you didn't know you cared about. With host, Chad White. Now, here's that host, Chad White.
Welcome back to News Time. I'm your host, Chad White, and this is the podcast subscription news that you didn't know about. Ever since the dawn of podcasts, when it was only comedians trying to make just get their voices out to their audiences in 2005, 2006, when it was like Never Not Funny and Mark Maron and just I think it was like the guy, something like that, Stephen the Gal, another podcast. Anyway, but when it was only those, and then it ballooned into this big, 12th leg of the entertainment industry. It became an unfair advantage when you were somebody famous, when you're Conan O'Brien and you can stop a TV show, start doing podcasts, make more money than you ever made in your life, and then also have a Sirius XM channel. I love Conan, but this is insane. And it's kind of unrealistic. And now anybody can make their own podcast. I mean, look at me. I got a Constitutionals podcast wherever you find your podcast. And then, we have Recap Podcast, which was the last episode of this show, which I know I did not put those two together, but I need to space these things out. And now you have to find a way to make money on these things. And everybody's trying to make money, whether it's from Patreon, you get people to directly pay you so you can give them extra episodes or merch or whatever, or through merch or during live shows or what have you. But now, instead of paying Patreon, giving them that 11%, why don't you go over to Apple and let them have it? That's right. Apple has their own subscription platform within Apple Podcasts for podcasts. It is crazy and insane. You give them a little bit of extra dough, and they'll allow you to put out extra episodes behind a paywall within the podcast app. So the idea here is that people will stay with just Apple Podcasts. Or in a second, we'll talk about Spotify doing the same exact thing. People can go to one app and listen to all the things that they want to listen to. Now, the feature is called the Apple Podcasters Program, and it's premium subscriptions for $20 annually. It gives you all the tools you need in order to do what you want to do. It's all over the world. It's got free subscription and freemium tiers. So that's 3 different tiers. It'll allow you to unlock new shows, perks, ad-free stuff, whatever. And now moving over to Spotify, you can do the exact same thing, but it's also saying that whoever wants to post a podcast under their paid subscriptions platform will also get just a little bit more money. Now, the participating creators on Spotify would get about 100% of their revenue. However, Spotify has a thing that has a streaming ad insertion tool, and that they were able to implement by purchasing a company called Megaphone for $235 million a little bit ago. And in 2023, the company is going to charge a 5% fee for the tool. Apple's going to take a 30% cut for the first year, and then it's going to drop to 15% for the second year. So they're really encouraging you to stay with it. And if you have enough people, I guess it kind of works out in the end. But when Apple launched their subscription, their program, it was launched. There's a myriad of bugs. For instance, people weren't able to sync their episodes across devices. I have a Mac, I got a MacBook Pro, and I have an iPad. And if I was going to pay for podcasts, which I only pay for 2, I'm not paying for any more, then it would have been hard for me initially. This is months ago when it launched to listen across all those devices, and then there were a bunch of labor costs that just didn't work. There was like an RSS problem where, and this is in particular is a big issue for Spotify, where these homegrown apps like Spotify and Apple Podcasts can't accept outside RSS feeds, or they not that they can't, they won't, and they're not programming to them to do so. Whereas every other podcasting app pretty much does, like Pocket Cast, even though it's now subscription based itself. And people weren't able to get their RSS feeds to work correctly, like especially if someone has a Patreon that they wanted to migrate over, and it's just troubleshooting just did not work at all. And then Apple decided to launch a couple of more charts for paid podcasts. And if you know podcasting charts at all, the only one that I guess the majority and the mass of people would pay attention to is Apple Podcasts, because that's the thing that apparently people use the most. And these paid charts are going to help have the top subscriber shows that will have 100 shows and top subscriber channels, and 100 subscriber, like the channels with the most subscribers, and the channels with the top shows that are that people enjoy, and those are the ones that are going to get more listens, and unfortunately that's just how it works. But then they also offered a new feature where you can have it's called Listen With, and famous people are going to, or people with prominence, I guess, are going to create podcast playlists, and so they'll have show like Doughboys, Slappy Boys, all these boys podcasts, and you get to listen to their favorite episodes of shows, or listen to their favorite shows, period. So there you go. Apple and Spotify and all these other new ways of doing podcasting as subscriptions, they're moving into a market that is, quite frankly, like the Wild Wild West. It's unadulterated. There's no one regular way to do it. Whereas for TV and film, you kind of have to. You can make a TV show and make a movie, but in the end, you have to, if you want to, for award contention and all that stuff, it's got to be in a certain format and work for audiences, as and whatever. But for podcasting, it can be so niche, and it can go on and be unregulated, is the word I was looking for earlier. Then it just doesn't matter. Podcasting is really it needs some oversight atop of everybody, and when everybody can do something, then it just becomes a lot more difficult to be looked over. And quite frankly, the rich are getting richer, and that's just sad to hear. Listen, subscribe, check out one of our other videos, and don't be sad after hearing that. You can head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talking to famous people sometimes. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at cpluscomedy. Follow me on all those at Chad Black White except for TikTok. Listen to the Constitutionals podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and don't unsubscribe. I'm sick of seeing the numbers go down. They should be going up, baby, up!